Welp. This is it. This is Grand Finals. IROC versus Adelaide. This is the Grand Finals that we deserve. So, something we can note about the Okizeme option here, IROC kind of knows, and Adelaide kind of knows, that if IROC guesses really hard wrong, notice how previously Adelaide just kind of got to jump out for a little bit there because she woke up in neutral. IROC went and he tried to read the tech out, but it didn't really work. And so Adelaide could just kind of get out. However, he did keep his distance. It's really important to not do something stupid. It's better to err on the side of caution in Soku because you can always capitalize on somebody else's mistakes. If you are more patient than the other person, generally speaking in neutral, it is beneficial. That was funny. So, spamming the ceiling lasers a couple times and going for a drop-down J2A. Unfortunately, Yukari's 3A is goated, disgusting move that just has nasty frame data. So, that happened. This was an interesting interaction. So even though IROC was in the middle of waking up while Diamond Dust happened, that does not mean that he's stuck in Diamond Dust. And Yukari has a very ambiguous wake up animation. So she'll teleport wherever she's waking. If she's neutral wake up, she'll just teleport right in place. If she's teching out, she'll end up teleporting. The animation is the same basically. Most people in this game, most characters, they'll kind of go to where they're attacking out. So like Suika will roll out. Most people will just kind of like stand up and like jump back a little bit depending on how fast or slow their wake up is. But in this case, Yukari just kind of disappears and just appears. It's really ambiguous. The way you tell is by kind of watching the screen. If the screen goes and zooms out a little bit, you know she teched out. Pinwheel. However, it didn't work. And now Adelaide has Diamond Dust. She's going to go for a J2C because there's no choice but to block it. It will result in a ton of spirit damage. It'll result in a ton of deck gain. Let's see how many cards Adelaide gets off of this pressure string, because ultimately that's what this is about. Yuyuko's pressure is very meter oriented. See, that one card there was kind of important because it was needed to extend the pressure string. Ultimately, that pressure netted about 2 cards worth. So even with the meter being used for pressure, that was a net gain of 1 card. And here, again, the metered pressure, the 2 card into the crush. This is going to lead to another combo and a round ender. And of course, ending on the skill card is always preferable. This is a trap that most people can get stuck into. You generally want to keep an air dash available in case you get stuck in a situation like this where you're just kind of falling and somebody else can hit you with an air unblockable, because you can kind of feign like you are going to fall to the ground, so you can bait it out and into a situation like Adelaide did here. That sucks. I hate it when that happens. Oh well. Backwards J-Day. You love to see it. It feels really good to land, even though there's literally nothing you can do off of it, except for like ceiling lasers. This is what we call a checkmate. In Typhoon, you can't block, and this is literally like, no, this is end. This is over. I'm fast forwarding through the rest of this. Okay, next game. That was a nice combo ender. Ending with J6A is always nice because it gives that extra bounce. If you get a move that ends, like Iku's J2A, if you end with the J2A, you get a little bit of an extra bounce. For Yuyuko's J6A, you get an extra bounce. It's just a very consistent way of knowing when your opponent is going to wake up. This was a neat pressure bait here because Adelaide knew that the whiff wasn't really punishable, that IROC was going to go for just kind of like a chicken block. In this case, chicken blocking is just holding up and back. But going for the air unblockable there was very, very good. Though... That was nasty. That was good. That was really good. That is getting into your opponent's head. That is incredibly good pressure. That's a lot of what makes the difference between a high-level Yuyuko and a low-level Yuyuko is the ability to just get into your opponent's head. Now, we know that Adelaide has a full stick of butter here, so she can kind of just go into that metered pressure again. So this might just end in a perfect. You know? Oh yeah, by the way, this tournament had a really large prize pool. I don't blame anybody for using scummy tactics like this. Forcing Typhoon when you're about to get a perfect on your opponent. It's like... It's so insecure. Cool interaction. So Typhoon, block stun, block stop, that whole thing. We talked about it a couple times already, and by a couple I mean many. We know how Typhoon works at this point. One of the applications of this is if you have a move. This is something basically only Yuyuko does. If you get somebody caught in your 2B where there's a bunch of B bullets that are keeping them perpetually stopped, you can use that as a conversion into either 2-card poison or 4-card time bomb, as we see here, because IROC is currently stuck in the animation of his 6C. Or sorry, 6A. Or maybe it's dial, whatever it is. But that means that he is guaranteed to be hit by that 4-card because he's been kind of stuck in that animation the whole time. See? IROC is going to go for the teleport here to avoid the damage of life ticket bomb thing. Oh! I think maybe some of the bomb's tilt may have rubbed off on IROC here. You know, there's only so... You can't feel too bad if you mess up the time bomb. If you mess it up, it's never easy to avoid a time bomb. I would never say that it's an easy thing to avoid and everybody can get caught by it. it's really hard, and it's less that it's like, oh man, this is disappointing that I didn't. It's more like, wow, this was really impressive that I did. So don't beat yourself up if you died a time bomb, because honestly, the way that it's meant to be defeated is by just hitting Yuyuko. Any other way is just kind of a bit of a deceitful way of doing it. Alright, this is game 3 of Grand Finals, the last game, so we know who wins. However, let's see exactly how Adelaide wins here. You know, before we go too far into this game, you know, if you're willing to use weather, it's such a satisfying move. It's like and like get a crush. It's nice. So Adelaide in neutral here is basically just keeping her distance and waiting for IROC to get hit by one of the slow-moving bullets. Like that. Interesting thing about Monsoon is the weather, it makes everything bounce one more. So sometimes that means bouncing off of the wall, but most of the time that means bouncing off of the floor. And practically speaking, what that does is it resets the untech. So if you've heard of a Monsoon combo, that means that it's usually kind of fake, because you can bounce up and still get hit, but you can air tech. It's this weird kind of gray area, but it means that you are probably more pressured to air tech when you're in Monsoon. So you can expect people to air tech, because otherwise they have that threat of getting hit by a combo that just would be avoidable if they air teched. Pinwheel. By the way, in Monsoon, you can just pinwheel like 3 times in a row, and that's a combo. But it has so much untech that it just isn't air techable. It's ridiculous, and it feels so bad to get hit by this. I love this Okisemi option. If somebody's teching out, you just walk to where they are, and then you just kind of like... For a little bit, you're like going back and forth so they don't know what side you're on. It's a really, really effective cross-up tool, and you see it happen a lot in Japanese games and high-level play. This is an IROC special, is using a move to make it seem like you whiff, and then just, it wasn't a whiff, it was plus anyway, because, you know, you just know all the frame data because you're a human calculator. Pinwheel in Spring Haze is really, really strong. I don't know why IROC got hit there. That was just a good anti-air option. 2B into Pinwheel ensures that you've got both a bullet and a melee, and if they block the Pinwheel and the bullets, then they're kind of stuck, just thrown back because of all the knockback. So it's really a very safe option. What I really like is Adelaide's uses of 2B into the 2-card poison, because it gives a very, very nice spacing. No other combo would have actually worked there other than the 2-card ender, because the 2B hit so far like away, it was spaced so much that the only move that would connect after that would be the 2-card poison, because it just has really, really good conversions. Like, you can use 236B from like half the screen away and then convert that into 2-card poison, because of that's just the conversion tool. And what this does effectively is it helps the Okizeme, because look at Adelaide, she's already in the spacing for a tech out. That was just a masterful reading on Adeley's part. So what happened there, the bait there, was that Adeley's been doing drop-down J2As all set, and then there she went for the ceiling lasers. IROC went for the descending J8A. That's something that is such a good, it's got such good frame data on it that it would actually like beat Iku J2A. However, if you use a bullet versus a melee, generally speaking, the bullet wins. So that's why the bullet won. And that's why IROC did that, because he was expecting a J2A. Now, IROC has a full stick of butter here, so he can do some pressure with 2 Rans. So Ran, that's the spell card that he's holding right now. If he has 2 of them right now, all he has to do is he has to pressure and extend that pressure long enough to get another card, and at that point he can get 2 Rans. And that's a lot of momentum that you can get. This is an interesting thing that IROC will do, is he'll just go for pinwheel pressure, and he'll just use the pinwheel pressure until it stops working. So what he's effectively doing is he's just going to keep going for this same catch until Adeley blocks it. And then at that point, he's going to go for Ran. So if you're going to do that strategy, you really have to commit to it, and you have to go for that catch if you're just going to do that. But unfortunately, he got a little greedy, and so Adeley was able to escape. And that led to Adeley winning the round from some really good grazing. Adeley's grazing is insane this set. She just knows exactly when she can and cannot use a button. Again, pinwheel. It works so well because if it's blocked, it's not really punishable from that kind of spacing. It seems like it is because, you know, she's up in this health bar, just totally helpless, but no, she's not. She's gonna fall down, and then it's fine. So the 2 enders you can do from that spacing, you can either go for the 3A ender or the 6A ender. From Adeley's perspective, if Adeley were holding a 2-card poison or a 4-card time bomb, going for the 6A would end in a wall bounce, which could convert into one of those spell cards. But because she's only got the 1 card and, you know, 2 weather swords to force another scummy, it is more advantageous to go for the 3A because that is a knockdown as opposed to just a raw 6A, which would end in an air tech probably, from a nice advantageous spacing that would reset back to neutral. So in this way, she gets to do a little bit of Okizeme. Something I'm really noticing is how much these pinwheels are just not working very well at all versus versus Adeley here. Sorry, there was a fly. Or maybe it was a spider that was just right by my eyes. I'm just gonna pretend that didn't happen. She's in your head! IROC, she's in your head! Okay, so basically the mix-up here is, are you gonna go for the high or are you gonna go for the low? It's basically playing like 5 rounds of rock, paper, scissors in the span of 5 seconds. So you know all of the ways that you can go for rock, paper, scissors. There's all those mental games that are involved with it. In this way, getting into your opponent's head is really, really helpful for a character like Yuyuko, because ultimately at the end of the day, she has the most just totally normal pressure out of most people. It's just 2A or 4A. And if they block 2A wrong, they get to go for more. If you block 4A wrong, you get to go for more. However, the one caveat to this is that Yuyuko's 2-way is 0 on right block, which means that there is no particular frame advantage or disadvantage if this move is right blocked. However, usually depending on the spacing, it'll just work into another 2A. This doesn't mean that you can use it infinitely, it just means that you can use it kind of until you are no longer spaced enough for it to work. At that point you have to choose between 3A or 6A, or some other option. And now we are going to see the rolling commence. Yeah, there was nothing to do there. That was such a roll. That was really nice. That was Yuyuko.